Good evening, I'm Shivani Chamjong. Let's begin with the top stories. Madheshi Morcha concludes that the government's proposal cannot address their demands. Nepali Congress and Samyukta Loktantrik Madheshi Morcha are near consensus on issues including constitution amendment. Earthquake-affected victims of Gorkha's Bar Park yet to receive the relief package promised by the government. Victims of Sindhupalchok face difficulty due to the increasing cold. The International Organization for Migration says the number of migrants crossing into Europe by land and sea this year has passed 1 million. And Nepal taking on Sri Lanka tomorrow at the SAF Championship in India. The Samyukta Loktantrik Madheshi Morcha has concluded that the proposal put forth by the government yesterday cannot address their demands. The coalition has said the demarcation of states is its bottom line and protests would continue unless the demand is addressed. The Morcha held a meeting today to go over the proposal endorsed by the cabinet. Morcha concluded that the proposal had failed to address the issues of Madheshi and indigenous communities constitutionally. According to the release issued by Morcha, the government's proposal was incomplete and lacked clarity. The Morcha has accused the government of not being serious about talks and the 11-point proposal put forth by them. The Morcha has said that the amendment bill registered in the parliament had also failed to address the demands of the Madhesh movement. Meanwhile, Sangya Samajwadi Forum's chairman Upendra Yadav has said that although India had welcomed the cabinet's decision over the amendment proposal, they would continue to oppose it. The Morcha has reiterated that along with inclusive representation, citizenship and delineation of electoral constituencies, issues regarding nationalized citizenship and federal demarcation should also be addressed in the package. Earlier yesterday, Morcha had said that its talks with the government had been positive. The government yesterday had decided to move the constitution amendment procedure forward. The amendment bill registered in the parliament proposes inclusive and proportionate representation and delineation of electoral constituencies based on population. It also proposes settling the federal demarcation issue through political consensus. Nepali Congress and Samyukta Loktantrik Madheshi Morcha have neared consensus on issues including the amendment of the constitution and demands of the Madhesh movement. The leaders claimed that they were close to consensus after the meeting held at the Nepali Congress President Sushil Koirala's residence in Maharashganj today. During the meeting, Nepali Congress showed some flexibility over the 11 points demands put forth by the Morcha. Similarly, Morcha leaders too have welcomed the constitution amendment proposal floated by Nepali Congress. At the meeting, Nepali Congress hinted that they could accept the demands regarding nationalized citizenship, inclusive and proportionate representation at the National Assembly and revision on federal demarcation of states. Morcha has also welcomed the gesture as a positive development. Leaders of both parties have said that further discussions were necessary to reach a final conclusion over the issues. Nepali Congress has also stepped up discussions over the amendment proposal with the ruling parties. Morcha had begun discussions with Nepali Congress from yesterday, claiming that there was no point in holding talks with the government. Nepali Congress has said that the amendment proposal put forth by the party would address some demands of the Madheshi community and other demands could be addressed through additional discussions. However, Morcha has stressed that issues including federal demarcation of states and nationalized citizenship should be settled in a package deal. The Legislature Parliament has decided to hold discussions over the Constitution Amendment proposal in tomorrow's session. The Parliament Secretariat informed that tomorrow's work schedule would include discussions between the three main parties, Nepali Congress, UML and Unified Maoists over the Constitution Amendment Bill. The Madheshi Morcha until now was against the Constitution Amendment proposal put forth by the three parties, claiming that it had failed to address the demands of the Madhesh movement. Parliament Speaker Ansari Gharti had earlier postponed the parliamentary proceedings for 5 days, granting time for three main parties and Morcha to arrive at a consensus. However, Morcha and the three parties have not held any official talks as of yet. The leaders of the major parties have failed to form a common stance over the demands of the Madheshi Morcha, despite holding several rounds of bilateral and tripartite talks. Today we asked the residents of Sarlahi, Kavre and Jhapa what should be done for successful dialogue between the government and the Madheshi Morcha. Before we take a short break, let's take a look at what they had to say.
को आवाज brought to you by Xavier International College, Bauddha, Kathmandu. Sri Ganapati Jewelers, Vishal Bazar, Lakshmi Mandir Sangai, New Road, Kathmandu. Schemes College, Midbaneshwar, Kathmandu. Master Builders Cement, building your future. Noble College, Sinamangal, Kathmandu. Bridge Cement, solid cement ले बन्छ solid घर. Bombay Steel, जे बन्छ दिगो बन्छ. ए cement, यो देशको शिर उच्च राख्दै. High Tech OPC Cement, हरेक निर्माण गुणस्तरीयताको प्रमाण. हुलास Steel, हुलास भए अरु किन खोज्ने. Kamaj College, सुकेधारा, Kathmandu. Tin TV, हर घर digital on free setup box.
जायज मागहरू छन् भने उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ सम्बोधन गर्नुपर्छ र मधेसी मोर्चाले पनि नाजायज मागहरूलाई चाहिँ उनीहरूले पनि लचकता अपनाएर ती छोडेर अनि एउटा कम्प्रोमाइजमा जानुपर्छ।
मधेसवादीहरूले नि देश टुक्राउने गरी माग राख्नुहुन्न वार्ताबाट नै समस्याको समाधान गर्नुपर्छ।
जायज मागहरूलाई पूरा गरेर अहिले तत्काल पूरा गर्न नसकिने मागहरूलाई एउटा राजनीतिक सहमति गरेर अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ।
मधेसको दलले यो हाम्रो सरकार दल राम्रो हुनुपर्ने दुवैजना मिलेर
आफ्नो अडानबाट थोरै भए पनि अलिअलि पछि हट्नु पर्यो।
सरकार पनि अलि लचकता अपनाउनु पर्छ र मधेसी दलले पनि लचकता अपनाएर अनि मात्र यो आन्दोलनको के भन्छ कि अन्त हुन्छ।
आफूलाई भन्दा बढी जनतालाई माया गरेर अहिलेको समस्या समाधान गर्न मधेसी दल नै अग्रसर हुनुपर्छ।
दुवै पक्ष बीच लचकता अपनाउनु पर्ने यसमा ठुलो भूमिका मधेसी दलले पनि अपनाउनु पर्ने र सरकारी पक्षले पनि अपनाउनु पर्ने। अब मेरो गुरुको 12% भनिरहेमा यो समस्या कहिले पनि समाधान हुँदैन।
Welcome back. The government had declared that they will provide relief package to earthquake victims, but the local administration has not distributed the relief package, including financial assistance to buy blankets, which has added to the woes of the victims in Barpak. The earthquake victims of Gorkha's Barpak have not received the relief amount distributed by the government to buy warm clothes this winter. The victims of Barpak, which was the epicenter of the massive earthquake of April 25th, have been living in difficult conditions in this harsh winter weather. The earthquake victims have been facing difficulties coping with the cold weather as they are staying in makeshift shelters after their houses were destroyed in the quake. The victims said they are compelled to depend on bonfires to keep themselves warm. The senior citizens and the children are the worst affected by the increasing cold. The victims said they should get the relief amount of 10,000 rupees distributed by the government at the earliest, as they have not been able to buy warm clothes due to weak financial conditions. The earthquake victims of Sindhupalchok have been facing numerous difficulties due to the increasing cold weather. Lack of proper shelter and warm clothes have made them vulnerable to freezing temperatures overnight. Sindhupalchok was one of the worst hit districts by the earthquake. The earthquake victims there are now looking for options to protect themselves from the cold. The elderly and children have started falling sick due to cold-related ailments. The people there have been depending on firewood for some warmth during the nights. Most of the tents used by the victims have become old and worn out, making them susceptible to the cold weather and dew formations. Nearly 86,000 families have been living in temporary shelters after the earthquake. The 10,000 rupees promised by the government to buy warm clothes have still not been distributed. The victims have requested the local administration to disperse the amount at the earliest. It's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you SMS us with your opinions. But before that, let's take a look at the results of yesterday's polls. Yesterday we had asked you what is the solution of Madhesh movement. 25% voted for A, serious talks, 33% voted for B, constitution amendment, and 42% voted for C, referendum. And today's question is, why have the earthquake victims still not received their relief package for winter? Your options are A, incapable administration, B, unnecessary politicization, and C, lack of sensitivity. The voting for that question is on. Type NEWS, select your options A, B or C and send it to 8080 to share your opinion with us. Now, an international update. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has said that the number of migrants crossing into Europe by land and sea this year has passed 1 million. The number represents a fourfold rise on the total last year. The vast majority crossed by sea, with more than 800,000 traveling from Turkey to Greece. Most are refugees from Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan. The IOM says that more than 3,700 migrants are known to have drowned this year or remain missing. The symbolic milestone was passed on Monday, the IOM said, with the total for land and sea reaching 1 million. The figure covers entries via 6 European United Nations: Greece, Bulgaria, Italy, Spain, Malta and Cyprus. Some 500,000 of the refugees were from Syria, with more than 200,000 from Afghanistan. The huge influx of migrants has caused significant political rifts within the EU. Some states have put up fences and introduced border controls despite the EU's border-free Schengen area. The IOM gathers its statistics from registrations, law enforcement agencies and its own monitors. And with that, we'll take another short break for more news. Stay with us.
Brought to you by Sri Ganapati Jewelers, Vishal Bazar, Lakshmi Mandir Sangai, New Road, Kathmandu. Dish Home, delightful lifestyle.
Preparations are afoot to sign 3 major agreements during Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs Kamal Thapa's visit to China. Nepal is expected to sign trade and transit treaty with China for the diversification of its trade dependency on India. The agreement is expected to ease the import of trade items from China and third countries. Similarly, an agreement will also be signed for the commercial import of petroleum products from the northern neighbor. Nepal Oil Corporation officials have said that even though they reached an agreement with PetroChina to import fuel, the deal had not been materialized on the grounds yet due to lack of high-level talks. According to the agreement with PetroChina, Nepal will receive 33% of the petrol import from China to meet its demands. Nepal will also propose exemption of fuel tax and also request China to resume transit points in Rasagari, Tatopani, Mustang's Lomatang and Sankhua Sabah's Kimatangka. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs Kamal Thapa will be leaving for China tomorrow. Time for sports update. Nepal will be up against Sri Lanka at the SAF Championship, which kicks off from tomorrow in India. The match between Nepal and Sri Lanka will be played at 6:45 in the evening Nepali time. The Nepali time has reached India last night after training in Bangladesh for a week. However, the team collected some bad first impressions as they complained that the organizers failed to connect them to their respective hotel. Similarly, they also expressed disappointment over the management of the pre-match conference held earlier today and the training field. Despite this, Nepal's team coach Patrick has expressed confidence that his boys will win tomorrow's match. A win tomorrow will consolidate Nepal's semi-final journey. Nepal and Sri Lanka have clashed 15 times so far, of which Nepal has just won 2 games, while Sri Lanka has won 5. 8 matches have ended in a tie. And before we wrap up, a reminder of our main stories. Madheshi Morcha concludes that the government's proposal cannot address their demands. Nepali Congress and Samyukta Loktaantrik Madheshi Morcha are near consensus on issues including constitution amendment. Earthquake-affected victims of Gorkha's Bar Park yet to receive the relief package promised by the government. Victims of Sindhupalchak face difficulty due to the increasing cold. The International Organization for Migration says the number of migrants crossing into Europe by land and sea this year has passed 1 million. And Nepal taking on Sri Lanka tomorrow at the SAF Championship in India. That's all for the moment. Up next is news in Nepali. Keep watching Kantipur Television. Good night.